Hello, my name is Dr. Arthur McClinu. I've dedicated my life to providing surgical care to patients with heart disease. My life began in the slums of Soweto in South Africa, where I learned to overcome adversity and illnesses, including the death of my best friend. That's why I want to be a resource for you and your family for consultation related to heart and cardiovascular needs. You can learn more about me by visiting my website, which is at zuluchaskada.com.
All right, hey folks, Roland Bubba Grimes. Roland Grimes, not just sports and entertainment show, here with my resident co-host. Put your hands together for Mr. Self-Empowerment, ladies and gentlemen, Wilbur Skipper. As always, Skip's got his game face on right now. Every time I introduce him, Skip look like he's getting ready to shoot that 30-foot jumper with no time on the clock. Skip, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. You have to take it serious. It's a great business to be in, but I'm focused. I'm ready to go.
I have to tell you though, man, you definitely look good.
I appreciate it. Well, give all of this to the wife. Sharon, I love you, baby. Keep dressing me.
Sharon, love you. I want you to dress me too. So I'll be in Skip's closet tonight. All right, so just make sure that's another story. Anyway, hey folks, with us today is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Anthony Commodore. Now, he is I'm going to get some of this correct right now, and then some of it he's going to correct me a little bit later. He is in the filmmaking business. He's an author, and he wears a few other hats that he's going to tell you about in a little while. But as he does, he has this great book called The Other Foot. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for my good friend, Mr. Anthony Commodore. Now, I must start by saying, someone told me earlier, they were like, man, look, I want to introduce you to Anthony Commodore. I said, wait a minute. You obviously don't know me. I grew up on P-Funk, Brick, the Commodores. Well, I'm never going to forget this guy's name. So I know growing up, people used to throw jabs at you about your last name.
All the time.
All the time?
All the time.
So what, when you came in, they just do. They played Brick House when you walked in?
See, a lot of people now don't know the name Commodore.
Oh, that's right.
You know,
in
they
today's
don't,
world.
in today's world, so, you know, back
They just
then.
know Lonnie Ricky.
Lionel Richie. Back in the day. So, back in the day, and like I said, I went since I was in second grade by the name of Commodore. No one knew my first name, no one knew my middle name.
No.
It was all Commodore, so I kept with it.
Man, I wish I was in the second grade with you, man. We would have had a ball. Because I would have told stories about you that just made no sense to anybody else on the face of the earth. Quick draw and then some other things, man, had you covered. Look, do me a favor, before Skip takes over, tell me about The Other Foot.
The Other Foot is for one, it was a global project, and it took me about 2 years to write it. It's about a white male from the state of Maine who lived there his whole life. I actually went to Maine to learn how they live.
Man, nothing with white folks in Maine, so you ain't got to go there to be.
The entire time I was in Maine, I saw one black
You saw one brother. One brother. Wow. He was milking cows.
And we were at a shopping mall. So I pretty much built a story around, if you go to Maine, very beautiful place.
It is lovely.
A great place to live. So the book was centered around a kid who grew up very smart, got skipped through school, loving family, mother, father, sister, and brother. He was the youngest, but he was the biggest person in his family. He was 6'5",
Wow.
50 pounds, very smart.
Oh, small guy. I'm sorry, small relative. The biggest one in his family, not in mine.
So he got skipped through school, started working at a top accounting firm. And the accounting firm in New York City saw his talent and said, we need to bring him down here. So he moves to New York City against his parents' will, meets a black woman, 5'3", 125 pounds.
Wow.
Long story short, they get married. Throughout the marriage, she starts to abuse him. And because he never seen or had domestic violence in his family, he would never hit her back. So in 5 years, he will go to work with black eyes, broken limbs, like a woman would in domestic violence case. So after 5 years of abuse, she tries to stab him. He actually stabs her in the process, kills her. Now his whole life is in the New York City courtroom. How you going to find this big white guy innocent of killing this little white woman? Little black woman, although he's the actual victim, and he struck back in self-defense. And so,
Man, how long have you had this imagination, Mr. Commodore?
I had a buddy who I used to work with from the state of Maine, and when he died of an aneurysm, I went up to visit his family. So I said, I like this place up here, and then I went back to spend more time to see how they live, and I advised him I'm going to write a book based on what I saw in the state of Maine. Then I had to go to New York City to learn the laws of domestic violence.
So it wasn't just imagination. You picked up on some vibes when you were in Maine and in New York. Man, I can't wait to talk to you off camera about some of this.
Compelling. Well, before you decided that you were going to write this particular book, did authorship ever cross your mind prior to thinking about what happened in Maine?
No, not at that time, because back then, some years ago, I was an actor. I did several stage plays. I did a few films. Matter of fact, this guy that's sitting right out there, Richard Brown, he actually called me about 2.5 years ago after seeing me on stage and says, I want you in my film.
Wow.
So I acted in his film called Partner to Partner, which I played the drug lord. So after that, I believe that was my last film, then I started getting into my own production.
Well, speaking about film, since now we can actually say that after this show, you have been a guest on the Rolling Grounds Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Do you think you can do us a favor and talk to that gentleman to see if he can find a role for Bubba and Skipper?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be the short black woman. He'll be the tall white guy. You know, we're playing the other foot part too.
As a matter of fact, folks, you might not be able to see him, but he gave us a thumbs up. Give him a round of applause. Thank you. We're going to be on film. Yes.
Coming to the silver screen, Skip and the Casuals. Now, what is the transition from being an actor to a producer?
You have to have an imagination. You have to.
So I did get it right earlier.
Okay. One heck of an imagination. You have to, for one, you have to be a creator and to know how to write a vision, write what you actually visioning, and just pretty much be more creative and kind of keep up with what's going on modern.
Does it help to be born crazy? I mean,
sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes, but you have to be calm at some.
Calm and crazy.
Calm and crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when do you, as a filmmaker or producer, for some people they have a quiet time.
Yes.
I know when I'm writing my soon-to-be book that will be on the market, I like to drop down the family room, quiet storm, quiet music, so my thoughts can just regather themselves and just produce positive stuff that I'm writing about. When do you find your quiet time? Because you said that you have to have this imagination. So when do you find time to process all this?
Do you drive back up to Maine and make it happen?
No. When I wrote my first movie, I was at work and I left something at home because I work overnight, and I was driving down a dark road, and when I turned onto my street, I almost hit a deer. And right then, I thought of a movie, and I thought of a horror movie. So when I got back to work, instead of working, I started writing a movie.
Wow.
And I wrote this movie in about 2 weeks.
Man, them damn deer. Hey, folks, Rolling Grimes, Not Just Sports and Entertainment Show. We're going to take a break. We'll be back shortly with Mr. Anthony Commodore. Sit tight. Now, I know you all think that's a clapping machine, but it's actually real people here at the Society Lounge. Let's hear it for the people again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rolling Grounds Show.
Those are real people.
No machines here. These are real people. Hey, folks, back here with another real person who has a vivid imagination and has some encounters with deers that we're just beginning to learn about right now. So in case you didn't know, Anthony Commodore wrote his first movie after almost hitting a deer. Anthony, how does almost hitting a deer translate into a movie in your world?
Well, one thing it did, it scared me because I didn't see it and it came that
I've
close.
had that experience.
And after it scared me, and when I drove back, like I said, it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was so dark. And as I'm driving, the idea came to me. Actually, I can show you all a glimpse of a trailer that I put together for my horror movie, which is like in my MacBook there.
Wow.
So when it happened, as I'm driving back to work, I already knew exactly what I'm going to write. And the title of the horror movie is called Why Us?
Say that again.
Us?
Why Us?
Why us?
Yes.
And it took you about 2 weeks to write
It
it.
took me about 2 weeks to write it.
Okay.
2 weeks to write it.
Skip Why Us?
Okay, so
I know, right? New territory.
so going back to the film production part, you have to have a vivid imagination.
Yes.
You have to be able to wrap your mind around the story, but you have to write the story.
Yes.
You have to write in the characters.
Yes.
How does that take place? I mean, just walk us through the process.
Well, first, like I said, I had to create characters based on the vision that I had.
Okay.
And then a lot of times you'll find yourself scratching characters because they will walk out of your vision. And then you have to just keep focused.
So it's like the movie Dirty Dozen. They have to like die when the parachute comes down. You scratch them out of the movie.
Yeah, so it was hard to continue to create characters and like erase characters. So once the storyline came together, you knew exactly what type of person would fit. And then came a huge auditioning process because then you have to see exactly what you want on film.
And as that person out front, which you are, you not only have to have this vivid imagination, you not only have to write the characters and write the story, but now when it comes to the audition aspect of it, you also now have to see each individual and visualize whether or not they can play that part.
Absolutely.
So that's a part of the casting, if you're
Yes,
not correct.
absolutely.
Now, do you know sometime from the first time someone interviews for a part that that's my guy or that's the young lady I want to have, or do you go through a 3-tier process? I mean, how does that
Now,
work?
a person can walk in. I mean, you can walk on a set and audition. You can have that look.
Okay.
But the second you open your mouth, everything goes away. A person can come up on a stage that doesn't have that look, but will project exactly what you want and how you want it. I'm like, okay, I want this person.
Wow.
Versus this person, because you're not going to compromise your film because of the way someone looks. It's what they can actually bring. And if they just so happen to have a look, it makes it for an even better film.
Wow.
So when someone auditions for you and you don't choose them, do they like go outside and bash your window and stick an ice pick in your tires, man?
No, because some of them know that they would have an opportunity again to audition at some
Oh,
point.
so don't burn your bridges.
Yeah, never burn your bridges. And I started filming in December, and I had to stop filming, recast all over again, and start filming all over again with a whole new cast.
Wow.
And we shot the whole movie. It took us 3 straight months to shoot it. We shot every day but one day, and because it rained, we couldn't film. And that guy right there, Richard Brown, he helped me film. He was one of my directors, and we filmed straight through. And like I said, I do have a trailer. I would love for you all to see it.
Absolutely. We're going to definitely take a look at it. We'll take you up on that. Now, when you look at the aspect of everything that you do, okay, you just spoke about a director.
Yep.
So you have a person in directorship position,
Yes.
directing, but you're still behind the scenes overlooking everything that happens.
Yes.
And if something goes wrong, you're jumping in the set to say, no, we can't do that. We need to take a take. We need to do it all over again.
Well, with this particular movie, I pretty much did a lot. I did directing. I do have cameras of my own.
Okay.
And when I started my production, I had to find a way to make money. So before I even started filming, I did photography for 2 years. And I saved every penny. I didn't spend anything. The more money I made, the more equipment I purchased. And when I had enough money to purchase all my equipment, I said, okay, now it's time to film. From the lights, the cranes, the cameras. So it took all of that, and then it was time to actually start the filming process. Then I had to pick a crew, which get you a pretty good director who has a reputable resume.
Yeah.
And then you have to audition for your directors,
Wow.
your lighting technicians, your sound guys, even your makeup artists. I had a line of makeup artists.
Wow.
Because it was a horror film, we needed different looks.
Absolutely.
Like monster looks, ghostly looks, a lot of blood. So we went through a huge process to film this film.
Okay, so getting back to the film aspect of what you do, is it safe for me to say that you're probably wearing 15, 20 hats?
Oh, absolutely.
Based on what you do. I mean, I know you talk about having a director, you have your lighting guys, you have all the other people that are in the intricate parts.
Yes.
But you're still wearing these hats.
Yes. As a producer, you have to do everything. You have to make sure you know how to do everything. Because if someone falters, you have to step in and says, okay, no problem. I'll go take care of it myself. So my first film, I was able to pretty much do all of that, and I had great help. I don't think there was a time where I actually had to step in and says, okay, don't worry about it. And then
Which is a credit to your
then
staff.
it's a credit to you.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there were locations. That was one of the hardest things because we had to secure locations like a funeral home. When I first started filming, there were people giving me advice, well, film in your basement, go outside and take a picture of something and film in your basement. But I didn't want that quality of film. I want if I'm going to film in a funeral home, if you see funeral home, we're going to be in a funeral home. So we were able to go out, get a funeral home. They gave us a pretty good chapel, a brand new coffin, and that was actually our first day of filming. We were able to get nightclubs, hospitals, so we had to do even hotels. So we had to do a lot of scouting out in the public, and we offered film credit.
Okay. Hey, we're going to take a quick station break. We're going to come back and finish up with Mr. Anthony Commodore in a few minutes. Roland Grimes, Not Your Sports Entertainment Show. We'll be right back at you in a minute. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Welcome back. Anthony Commodore, Mr. Wilbur Skipper, Self-Empowerment. Anthony, when you finish putting all of this together with this film, the casting, the crew, the production, you wearing 37 different hats, you have a finished product, what do you do with it?
Well, then you're at the hardest part of your film.
Wait a minute. After you do all of this, now you're at the hardest part?
The hardest part. The hardest part is post-production, which is editing and distribution. Because then you have to actually put yourself out there and find someone to pick up your movie and your product, which is not easy. But when you are a reputable person, a lot of people are looking at what you do. That's why I'm careful of what I post on Facebook.
Sure, absolutely.
I don't post much, pretty much a good morning or whatever. They look at what you do. They look at the quality of work you do. Sometimes I will film what you call monologues, and I will post it on Facebook because I know that there are people looking. And then you get calls as well. We would love to do something with your movie. Why us? You'll have your Netflix, your Hulu, even your cable networks. Film festivals, because I can submit to different film festivals now, like the American Black Film Festival, your Sundance, your Tribeca, and try and win the film festival. So the editing and the distribution are the hardest part. Filming is easy. Filming is fun, but there's we can't do anything for free.
Yeah.
Filming costs. It costs so much that I had doubt when I wrote my second movie. But by that time, there were people already coming in and said, we would like to invest in your product. And once someone calls you and says, we would love to invest, that's a call that a lot of people don't get at all. So with this movie here, Why Us, we're going to be able to distribute it in different ways. Now I have an option of what I want to choose to do with this post-production. Because a lot of local area filmmakers, sometimes they would film their movie, go to Oxon Hill or Magic Johnson and rent the theater out for a weekend. I would love to go that route at a later point, but when I film, I want my projects to be global.
Yeah.
I want everyone to see it.
It will
Not
reach
just
everybody.
will reach everyone.
Yeah.
So like Netflix and Redbox and submitting into film festivals.
Yeah.
Well, the Netflix, the Redbox, those are relatively new.
Yes.
Before there was something else, and in the future there's going to be something else.
iTunes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
now when we look at film, because, and I'm sure I can speak for Roland as well. You know, we look at the good side, the in between, the bad. We look at some of the films where we were told that some of the people that were in the film production, you know, was on drugs or had an alcohol problem and other issues. I mean, how do you manage all these
That's a
different
good question.
personalities
Yeah.
that are right there? Because I'm sure some of this stuff happens, whether or not you've seen it or not. It happens, but yet, when we look at it from a consumer standpoint, we don't see that. If you can touch on that a little bit.
Well, we were fortunate in this production not to have any of those problems. We were very selective in who we picked. That's why it's always good to have bios, resumes, references. How was this person in your film? Well, this person stayed drunk. We don't want them. So you seek out professionals.
Wow.
When you're paying people, you expect the best from them. Whatever you do, and we explain to them because we have production meetings. Whatever you do in your personal life, do not bring on the set. You come to the set drunk and we can smell it, we're going to get you out of this project. And we haven't had that period where, you know, someone came to the set drunk, or, I mean, we had divas on the set who
Okay.
wanted certain things,
Attitudes.
attitudes.
They want
but-
to sleep with the producer to get in the movie.
Absolutely.
Folks, this is real talk. This stuff does happen.
No, I mean, so when that happens, this is real life. Now, you know, we're not going to front on people on my show, you know,
Yeah.
so on our show. So having said that, this happens.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we don't want people to go into any of these industries and think it's one thing and then encounter something else. It's better for them to know so they're prepared for it. So when you're given these options and these opportunities come to you, you know, how do you deflect? How do you dismiss? How do you handle it?
You stay focused. Because you know, as a film producer versus a horn dog, what you have to lose.
Yeah.
Because one mistake I make, I can pretty much lose everything.
Really?
One complaint, you can lose everything,
All of your accreditation.
all your accreditation. And if someone says, well, you know, Mr. Commodore sexually assaulted me or made an advance at me, everything is gone. And that's not a good thing. So, like I said, you have to stay focused. There are people that constantly comes at you. That's why with my new production staff, I hired a brand new production staff, where the only interactions I have is with my production manager and my director, and that's it.
So you don't have any, outside of maybe correcting something on the set, you have very little, if any, interaction
And
with the.
this movie now, I serve with a Cougar Heart, my next movie, I serve as an executive producer.
Okay.
My job is to get the funding for the movie. Like I said, I hired a director, production manager, producer, production assistant, my own personal assistants, to make sure that my job is just to step back and bring in money.
Right, but when you say my job is to do this, basically you're the one that hired yourself to do this.
Yes.
So
Yes.
what has to happen for you to determine, well, this is going to be my job on this next film compared to the last film? How do you make that determination?
The last film, I pretty much did everything myself. Myself and Richard, we did all the filming, we did everything. But with investors coming in to give monies, we don't have to do that anymore because
you can take it.
yeah, they will bring their entire film crew.
Wow.
And my job is to go out there and constantly try and seek more money. To have a producer, and a producer pretty much runs your show.
Okay.
They run pretty much everything. Production manager pretty much runs everything over the under the producer.
Okay.
And then you
So you
have
have your layers.
The
layers.
executive producer goes out, tries to bring that money in
Yes.
and those resources in
Yes.
so the project can be completed and distributed.
So yeah, we have table reads, we have production meetings, and the producer and the manager pretty much runs everything I can attend the meetings if I want. If I do come to the meeting, I will sit back and I wouldn't say a word because there's pretty much nothing for me to say. So it's a difference when you have money and when you're doing things on your own. When you're doing things on your own, you're reaching out to actors, you're calling actors, hey, we need you on the set, and hurry up and stuff like that. But now I don't have to do any of these things here.
Skip, we got about 60 seconds. I'm gonna ask a quick question. I'm turning over to you. How long was it before you started to get to some of that money that you're talking about? Were you in the business for 3 years, 5 years, 12, what?
We've been in the business for 5 years now.
Well, my question was, you spoke earlier about the financial aspect of it. I don't know if we have time to address this before we go to break, but if we do,
Actually, we're closing up, so finish the question. Don, my timekeeper, we're gonna extend about another minute. Finish the question.
couple questions since we're finished now. First of all, how expensive is it for you to produce a film? Number one, and then number two, what are some of the projects you have going in the future that we need to know about? And we want to get your contact information for everybody to be able to contact you if they need to be able to find.
To film a decent movie in this area, it will cost you no less than $100,000.
$100,000. Okay.
So you're looking at $100,000 plus.
Okay.
And my next project is, like I said, we're in pre-production. We're going to start filming in about 2 months.
Okay.
It's called Superstar, which is a pretty good tearjerker. So we're all set, and this time we'll actually have well-known actors who've been in movies before, stuff like that.
Okay, and then how can people reach you? Give us some contact information, websites, that type of stuff. So
If you want them to reach you, we'll at least see some of your projects.
Well, like I said, you guys want to see like a quick clip.
Well, actually, what we're going to do is we're going to access that clip and then we'll put it embedded within the show so other people see it as well if you'd like.
Okay, so real quickly, in terms of people reaching you, do you want to know how you can reach you before we close out?
You can reach me at malacom.production@gmail.com. That's malacom.production@gmail.com.
Okay. All right, folks. Hey, wrapping up, Roland Grimes, Natural Sports and Entertainment Show. Global Skipper, Anthony Commodore, Don Briscoe, thanks. One Shot Fred, as always. Tanja on the makeup, God bless. We'll be in touch real soon. Have a good night.